Good day, my name is TAI KEE YUIN, and today I am presenting my initial research proposal titled Bridging the Digital Divide: The Influence of Employee Digital Readiness and Resistance to Change on AI Adoption in Malaysia SME. This research moved beyond the technical aspect of digitalizations to explore the human behaviors that ultimately dictate the success or failures of our nation's digital agenda. To understand the urgency of this research, we must look at the macro context. We are currently in the midst of the Madani economic transformations. The Malaysian government has set an aggressive target for the digital economy to contribute 25.5% to our national GDP by 2025. To support this, Budget 2025 has introduced significant supply-side interventions, including a 50 million ringgit Malaysia Micro SME Digitals Matching Grant and 100 million for the NADI centers to boost literacy. However, despite these financial injections, we are seeing a persistent utilization gap. We are buying the technology, but are we using it effectively? This leads us to the core problems. The barriers to entry is no longer financial capital, it is human capital. Recent data from Ipsos reveals a startling statistic. 73% of Malaysians feels that AI will lead to a job loss. This is one of the highest rates of the NCLT globally. My research persists a critical paradox. Government grants increase the availability of tools, but these deep-seated psychological fears neutralize their utility. If an employee views automation as an existential threat, no amount of funding will encourage them to use it. The software becomes shelfware and the investment is waste. To analyze these behavioral deadlocks, I am integrating two robust theoretical frameworks. First, the Technology Acceptance Model, TAM. TAM tells us adoption depends on perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. Whilst grants improve usefulness by lowering costs, they do nothing to improve ease of use if the employee lacks skills. Second, I am overlaying the leverage change management model. Leverage argues that for change to occur, we must first unfreeze the status quo. I argue that AI and COTs act as a powerful restraining force that prevent this unfreezing. If we don't address the fear, we never reach the adoption stage. Based on this, my research objectives are threefold. Digital readiness, to determine if an employee's level of digital optimism directly correlates with how easy they find the tools to use. Second, fears and resistance, to empirically measure how fear of job loss drives resistance to change during that critical unfreezing phase. Third, the moderators, to see if this workforce resistance actually diminish the effectiveness of the 50 million government grant, essentially thus fears renders the money less effective. The scope of this study is specific and targeted. Geographically, I will use a stratified approach, comparing urban SME in the Klang Valley against semi-urban and rural enterprises supported by NADI centers. My unit of analysis is the individual employee. We are not looking at firm level profit, but at individual psychological construct like anxiety and readiness within micro SME that have a turnover between 300,000 and 50 million. Why does this matter? For the government, this is an issue of fiscal efficiency. We need to audit if supply-side grants work without demand-side psychological support. For economic security, we cannot hit our 25.5% GDP target if the workforce is resistant. And for social stability, that addresses the Rakyat Sejahtera pillars, we must ensure the digital revolution empowers our workers rather than marginalizing them or causing mental distress. Looking at the evolution of literatures, we see a clear shift. From 2015 to 2019, research focused on the first digital divide access to hardware and internet. During the pandemic, we saw reactive forced adoptions. Now in the 2023 to 2025 era, we face a new divide. It is no longer about access, it is about AI and CLT. The conversation has shifted from can we afford it to will it replace us. My research fills the gap in this specific behavioral era. From these literatures, I have derived three key hypotheses. H1. that higher digital readiness leads to higher perceived ease of use. H2, that fear of job loss is primarily driver of resistance to change. H3, that high workforce resistance negatively mediates the relationship between government incentives and adoption success. In other words, even with free money, high resistance leads to low adoptions. To test this hypothesis, I will employ a quantitative research design. I will utilize a cross-sectional survey targeting a sample size of 384 respondents based on Creasey's and Morgan's tables for a population of over 1 million SME employees. The sampling techniques will be stratified random sampling to ensure we capture the nuances of different sectors like services and manufacturing. For data analysis, I will use PLS SEM via Smart PLS 4. This method is chosen specifically because it handles complex behavioral models and non-normal data better than traditional regression methods. In conclusion, this research aims to propose a human-centric digital adoption framework. By identifying the psychological barriers to entry, we can help policymakers and business owners realize that the key to digital transformations is not just better software, it is a ready and confident workforce. Thank you for your time. This is the overall presentation. I hope you have a nice day.